All right, so this is my first cook with me vegan meal that I've decided to share with you guys. I am craving Chinese food and I just needed a good vegan stir fry. And y'all know how I feel about plant-based food. Sometimes they just make it so bland and so boring. So I'm gonna show you guys how I spice up my stir fry, how I make it from scratch, and how exactly I make it plant-based and or vegan, whichever one you want to go for. Now there are certain things you can substitute into this. There are some things that you can add to it. Say you want to add chicken, add it on in. Say you don't want to use soy sauce, you want to use coconut aminos, add that right on in. Either way, I'm going to show you how I do it, and hopefully you'll learn something, or you'll learn how to not do something. Either way, it's going to be a good time, so stick around and watch me do my thing. All right, you guys, let's start with prep. The first thing I did was go ahead and prep my mushrooms. What I did was I removed the stems and I wiped the caps because mushrooms grow in the ground. They are a fungus and they tend to be pretty dirty. So I usually use a paper towel or my hand to get as much of the dirt off as possible. And trust me, yes, I get it. God made dirt and don't hurt. But don't nobody want to be chewing mushroom and grit at the same time. It's just not fun. It don't taste good. It just disrupts the flavors. So you see me cutting them into 1/4-inch slices and just putting them to the side so I could start on the next thing. All right. Now what you see me, ooh, girl, pull up them pants. Don't nobody need crack in this. What you see me doing is peeling a 2 by 1 inch piece of ginger. I love fresh ginger and it just makes my stir fry amazing. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grate my ginger. I want it not too fine, but enough that it's going to, really bring out the flavor in my stir fries. Basically what I'm doing is I'm starting the base to my stir fry. Next, what I'm doing is just peeling around 4 to 5 cloves of garlic. I prefer garlic that's still in the bulb. I think it's fresher. I think it tastes better. I was using minced garlic for a while, but I realized it was not cooking the same and it just didn't taste the same. So if you want that full flavor profile, that Chinese food taste, you got to get the real stuff. Don't be lazy, just get it done. And yes, let me tell you, invest in the garlic press. It is the best thing I've ever had. Get you one of those and I promise you the flavor will be popping. All right, let's get to the fluids, the juices. So I use 2 cups of vegetable stock, or I use 1 vegetable bouillon cube with 2 cups of hot water just to simmer. I use rice vinegar, soy sauce, sesame oil, and last but not least, agave. I do not use sugar and I do not use honey. They're just not something that I like to use. I'd rather use something a lot less glycemic, on the glycemic index, I mean. I also mix in ground ginger, some onion powder, garlic powder, ground cumin, white pepper, and last but not least, crushed red pepper. So I definitely forgot to do this during the prep stage, but I do use 3 stalks of broccoli and I cut the florets off the top. I kind of just put them to the side. I put them with the mushrooms and the onions for, when I'm ready to throw them in the pot for the stir fry. I just been kind of doing a little bit late here because I forgot about them. Mistakes were made. Everything's fine. Okay, the moment we've been all waiting for, the drip, the sauce, the flavor, the goodness, the tastiness. I know. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I am mixing the 2 cups of vegetable bouillon and water into a mixing bowl. I'm also going to add 3/4 of a cup of soy sauce. Now, it doesn't have to necessarily be soy sauce. If you're trying to do something less salty, you can definitely use coconut aminos. They work just the same. They do have a little bit of a sweeter taste to them, so be mindful of that when you do add your agave. After that, I add about 2 tablespoons of the rice vinegar. It kind of gives it a a also salty taste, but like an Asian salty taste. I don't know really how to explain it, but it's good. And because I use soy sauce, I'm going to use 3 tablespoons of agave nectar. Go ahead and whisk in some of that fresh garlic and that grated ginger. You know, just whip it right on in there. And now we're going to add our spices. I use a teaspoon. I don't use a tablespoon. I think it's a little too heavy. Teaspoons are nice and small, and you can always add more if necessary. But I add a teaspoon of every spice I showed you earlier. Now, don't get me wrong, I do add a little bit more of certain spices as I'm cooking. Like, I really enjoy garlic powder or garlic seasoning, and I love crushed red peppers. I just like my food garlicky and spicy, and that's just how I like my Chinese food, but not everyone's gonna like it that way. That's how my household enjoys it. But feel free to stick your finger right in that mixture. Whip it up, stick your finger in there, get a taste. You know, that's how you'll know if the flavor profile is what you're looking for or not. Don't be scared to taste your food, guys. It's not scary. It's not gonna bite you. You know, all you're doing is highlighting and improving what you're making. Don't be scared. Jump in there. Try it. Now that we've whisked all that together, I'm going to go ahead and thicken my sauce. So I'm using cornstarch, which is a thickening agent. Don't get me wrong, I also use arrowroot powder, but it tends to be a bit more expensive than cornstarch. Cornstarch is definitely a more cost-friendly ingredient. But arrowroot is also really recommended for stir fry. I just so happen to use arrowroot when I'm using new recipes, because I really want to test it the way that it's meant to be. But because I know how this recipe is going to take the cornstarch, and I know that it's going to be just fine, it's going to taste the same, I'm going to go ahead and whip it in there. And you can't really see, but I added around 3 tablespoons of cornstarch. And I'm going to whisk it real good because cornstarch tends to settle on the bottom. I want to see how thick it's going to be. Plus, it'll also thicken more as it heats. So once it gets into the pot, you'll actually really get to see how thick your sauce is. Now, once again, you know, we just gonna whip it and taste it and whip it and taste it and just make sure that it is what we want. You're gonna get like garlic and the ginger kind of stuck on your whip, but just put it back in there. Put it back. You want all that flavor to stay. You don't want it going anywhere, trust me. All right, last but not least, honey, more prep. I'm so sorry that I'll make you do this in the beginning, but we're gonna chop these onions. However, girl, pull up your pants. Before we start chopping, you know, everything has gotten quite dirty here. So let's take a timeout and reset. All right, so I'm not gonna lie. I saved the onions for the very last because when I cut onions, I cry. I cry like a little baby. Like, I try everything. I try chewing gum. I try wearing glasses. I put the fan on. I'm a crier when it comes to onions. But anyways, I'm going to cut them in half from the top and then slice them. I prefer them to be thinner slices so they mesh well with the rest of the food, but slices for sure. These are the rice stir-fry noodles that I use. I got them from Whole Foods. They're Thai Kitchen. But I'm going to put a pot of salted water on so it can start to boil. And I'm going to heat my pan because I'm ready. Let's start cooking. Come on. I'm hungry. Get a move on. Starving like Marvin. All right. So on medium-high heat, I am going to add my onions, and I want them to be translucent. I want them to, saute. So I'm break them apart. They are in kind of still pieces of chunks, and I'm just gonna saute them, flip them, move them around, make sure they don't burn. And once they're nice and translucent, I'm going to add my mushrooms and broccoli. At that point, I am going to turn it down to medium-low heat. I don't want my mushrooms or my broccoli to burn, Instead, I kind of just want them to soften. And as you can also see, my pot of water is, beginning to boil a little bit. It's getting there. But it's important to just continuously move that broccoli, that mushroom, and those onions around in that pot because you do not want for it to burn. Now that my vegetables are nice and soft, I'm going to go ahead and season them. I season everything. The stir fry sauce, the noodles, the vegetables, everything got to get seasoned. And I'm going to keep it basic. I'm just going to use like 2 pinches of salt. I like the Himalayan pink salt. And some basic, black pepper. I know I usually like to use like the fresh black pepper. I like to use the shaker for that, but I don't have one right now, so we're just gonna settle for good old Trader Joe's. And once I've seasoned it, I'm gonna once again just move it around, make sure that the flavors are in there. I also never pour straight into the pot. I always pour my spices into my hand, and then I use my fingers to kind of distribute the spices over everything that I'm cooking. It just prevents from my containers from getting any moisture in them, and then it kind of messes up the food. Alright, now it's time to cook my noodles, and I'm not gonna lie to y'all, I messed this up big time. You're really supposed to let the water boil, and then you're supposed to turn the pot off, put it to the side, and let the noodles sit in the water for 8 minutes. But I overcooked my noodles by accident, and I actually let them sit in the boil for 8 minutes. I mean, they didn't taste much different. They were a bit more mushy than I had planned, but they were still good. Everything was all good. Everything still tastes all right. While the noodles are cooking, I'm gonna push my vegetables to the side in the pan, and then I'm going to add my stir-fry sauce to one side. Now, I also made another mistake here. I should have stirred or whipped my stir-fry before I put it in the pan. Reason why is because all of that cornstarch just sat on the bottom. You can see me in the background trying to whip it now because I'm realizing, I'm like, oh, wait a minute, where's the cornstarch? So I had to go back, whip it, and then add a little bit more with the cornstarch mixture. And if you feel like it's still not thick enough, you can always add a little more, as what I'm doing in the actual pan. I added a bit more cornstarch just to thicken my stir-fry sauce. Now, while my sauce is bubbling, okay, look, I have no shame. Yes, I'm on YouTube right now while I'm cooking. There's nothing wrong with it. Shout out to Bondi Blue. I love watching her clips about the week and about loving hip hop and 90 Day Fiance. But anyways, y'all can see that the stir fry has really thickened up. It started bubbling, and I'm just gonna head and mix those vegetables right on up in there. It looks so good, y'all. It smells even better. Look at it. Look at that greatness. Oh my God. Whew. I'm just getting hungry looking at this again. It ain't right. My noodles are done cooking, so I'm gonna go ahead and add them to the pot. Mind you, I still have quite a bit of stir fry sauce left. And when I'm done with this, I'm also gonna have quite a few noodles left. That just means that during the week, or just tomorrow, or even later on today, because I made this for lunch, that gives me the opportunity to reheat this whenever I need. And to reheat it, I literally just add some more of the stir fry sauce, and I put it in a pan, and I just mix it all together, because you need extra stir fry sauce when you're reheating this. The sauce gets so thick that by the time you go to reheat it, it doesn't smother the noodles or the food anymore. It just kind of sits. So you want to add more of that stir fry to it. And because the cornstarch is in it, it will thicken, but just not as much as what you already have. Trust me, I know what I'm talking about. Go ahead and get you a mason jar. Put that extra stir-fried sauce to the side. Put them noodles to the side. You know what I'm saying? I guess not this time. I guess I used all my noodles. But that's okay. Because like I said, you're going to use that sauce to reheat this dish. And as you can tell, it's quite a lot of food. And we're not eating this all today. But I'm gonna go ahead and mix it all up in there. That sauce is covering my noodles. I wanna make sure it's fully covered and make sure my vegetables are covered. And oof, ooh, I'm hungry. Okay, last but not least, I like to top my stir fry with either white sesame seeds or green onions or scallions, whichever you want to call it. I slice the green onions up and I kind of put them on top, or I sprinkle the white sesame seeds right on top. It's just aesthetically pleasing, and I just kind of like the dynamic to it. But that's it, guys. That's my dish. I hope you enjoyed it. Please try it. Leave a comment. Like, give me a like. Tell me what you think. You know, hit your girl up. Hope you enjoyed this. Peace.